Good morning, and thank you for watching this morning, wherever you are. Each morning, I try to bring you uplifting or encouraging messages. Many of these are either from my own experiences or something I found on the internet or came across in a book somewhere. But this morning, I want to tell you a true story that unfolded right before me this week. On Tuesday afternoon, Pastor Angelo Ostre and I went down to our city's homeless camp. It's located next to the railroad tracks, underneath the Wells Avenue overpass. There's an abandoned stretch of road there that extends for about 3/4 of a mile. It's lined on both sides with hundreds and hundreds of tents. This is ground zero for our city's homeless men and women. Pastor Angelo and I talked with a Reno police sergeant who was down there, also a REMSA paramedic, and they told us that somewhere between 300 and 400 people are living there. Surprisingly enough, though, they said that there hasn't been a single case of coronavirus. Certainly not what I would have expected for such people being so tightly packed together in such unsanitary conditions. So Angelo and I began walking through this area, and we sat down and talked with one particular family. They mentioned that they had a desperate need for some clean water. Well, Tuesday afternoon, Pastor Angelo and I both put on our Facebook pages about the need for water for these people. It has been truly an amazing act of God, how you all have responded. People have been bringing us water, stopping by the Upreach Resource Center, and as of yesterday, we had 32 cases of water. Many who couldn't bring water gave money and allowed us to buy even more. But here's where it really gets interesting. Yesterday afternoon, I took one case of water down to that family that we talked to at the homeless camp, the one we had talked to on Tuesday. Now, you need to understand something up front. I was not planning on going to work yesterday. It was my day off. My plan was to get caught up on some things at home and relax a bit. But God had very different plans. As I went to the camp where the family was staying, most of them were gone, but there was one young black man named James who was there. And so I sat down and talked with him. James was probably not more than 25 years old. And he told me that he'd been in Reno since 2015. He came here from Atlanta, Georgia, where his younger brother had been murdered right in front of him. He jumped on a train and wound up in Reno. He said that for 2 years he had tried to get a job, but everywhere he applied, nobody ever called him back. And finally, he just gave up. You know, being a pastor, of course, I'm going to ask him about his faith. I really felt God urging me to talk with this young man and share the gospel message with him. I fully expected him to tell me to buzz off, mind my own business. But at first he kind of looked at me with bewilderment. As I told him that God loved him and made him, and that he was a dear child of God, he shook his head and said, I really doubt that. He told me a little bit more about his rugged past and some of the things he'd done. And I told him that in God's eyes, he was more precious than anything. In spite of his past and all the pain that he's gone through, God still loves him more than he will ever know. Clearly, James had given up on ever getting a job. But James had also given up on God. I wish you could have seen that look in his eyes when I told him that God has not and never, ever will give up on him. It was as if I was telling him something he'd never heard before. As I said, I expected him to tell me to leave and go away. But what I did not expect was for this angry, tough young man to completely break down. Not just tears, but deep, heavy sobs. He said he had felt for some time that God was calling him out of this lifestyle, that he needed to make some changes. I gave him a Bible and encouraged him to start today. We sat and talked for probably over an hour. And I told him that God can use anyone, even me, even him. The pain and the anger that he's walked through, God can use in so many ways. I really wish that I could describe for you how amazing that moment was. I honestly believe for the first time, he truly felt loved by God. If you know anything at all about our homeless men and women, love is something they don't do. Love is something they don't deal with. Love is something that's never seen in this community. These people are all about being hard and being tough. But to see that hurt and that frustration just melt away, to see a grown man sobbing uncontrollably, not from pain but from love, it's something I'll never forget. I believe I was there yesterday because God knew that James needed to hear the truth. For the first time ever, James accepted Jesus into his life. We laughed, we cried. Before I left, we hugged. Probably not the smartest thing to do during a pandemic, but I couldn't help it. I truly felt that he needed that more than anything else in the world. Last night I put on my Facebook page a little bit about this story, and several people left a comment that I appreciate what they said. They talked about what a great guy I am. Well, now you know the real truth. I wanted to stay home last night. I wanted to relax. I wanted peace and quiet on my day off. But God had other ideas. And now, a young hurting man has hope. The reason that I wanted to share this with you this morning is to remind you that sometimes when we yield to God's prompting, He will work through us to do unbelievable things. What is it that God's calling you to today? I pray that you have a blessed day. Each morning, look to this Facebook page for more encouraging videos that will help to lift your spirits. And as always, I encourage you to like this video, give it a thumbs up, and share it with your friends. If you'd like to get involved in helping us to deliver water to these homeless men and women, I've put a link to this in the description to this video. Thank you. And God bless you as you go through your day today.